think some people look at it as the money is what allows it to happen. I just see it as the idea is what allows it to happen. And then the ingenuity is figuring out how to do it with, by any means necessary. You just got to make it.
I don't care where you put me at, the middle of the woods, $1 million studio. I'm going to make something out of nothing because that's where I come from. DIY. I read a book by Rick Rubin. It's called The Creative Act. Man, it is now one of my favorite reads because I think it just properly prepared me creatively to kind of have more realistic expectations as I get in the studio and cook up. Also, in finding my balance between my music and my business, he speaks to all these things. The gems that he gave in this podcast is from Andrew Huberman. And he asked him a bunch of different interesting questions about creativity. The one I want to zero in on is at the 1 hour and 19 mark, where he's talking about how does someone who is an artist balance the responsibilities to make money off of their music, but also balance being as great as they can at their art form. How does Rick Rubin balance that?
How do you view money in relationship to your work? Meaning, how do you place it in the constellation of things related to a project?
I try not to think of it at all. And because I come from a punk rock background, which was like a do-it-yourself background.
Hold on.
DIY.
It's a do-it-yourself sighting.
Always more about the idea and the execution of the idea with whatever you could use to do it. So if I didn't have enough to go to a professional recording studio, then I would find a friend who had a home recording studio and record, or whatever it was, or borrowing a drum machine before I had a drum machine. I would always find ways to make the things I wanted to make. And I can't remember a time where a financial boundary got in the way of making something.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Rick Rubin, a legend. Part of one of the cheat codes to my 20-plus career has been my ability to never worry about what resources we don't have. I am always going to be more resourceful than the average human being. I am the person that if we're in a car and it runs out of gas and all of our phones have no reception, I am already up the road looking for the next gas station while people are sitting there pouting and angry about why we weren't more prepared for it, why nobody has a AAA card. I am walking up the road. Resourcefulness. Let's use the legs that we have instead of complaining about the working car or the gas we don't have. That has always been my mentality, and it seems because of the punk rock background that Rick Rubin comes from, he has never lost that. And you see so many artists that have come from very, very wild backgrounds, wild environments, right? Environments in which they were fearful for them lives, environments that just do not seem like great incubators for creativity, only to get into an industry where once the financial threshold is met, once their finances are taken care of, they kind of lose their resourcefulness. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, I can't do this without this. I can't go here without this.
And I see it happening a lot around me. I think some people look at it as the money is what allows it to happen. I just see it as the idea is what allows it to happen. And then the ingenuity is figuring out how to do it with, by any means necessary. You just got to make it. It may not be the dream version, but whatever version you can execute is the one for you to make.
Life is not always accommodating to your needs. Being a producer, going studio to studio, not everybody will have the plugins that you need. You may even bring your laptop and forget a part, so you can't even use your laptop in much the same way. Not everybody has your MIDI keyboard that has all the different knobs, but your ability to readjust, your ability to take the circumstances as they've been handed to you and figure out how to still be great requires you to have something that is greater than the things that you have in your possession. It requires you to be something that is indestructible no matter what environment you find yourself in. And I feel like this is what Rick Rubin is talking to. There are things that are embedded in his DNA and his character and who he is beyond just the things that he's done that says, I don't care where you put me at, the middle of the woods, $1 million studio, I'm going to make something out of nothing because that's where I come from.
I'm friends with Darren Aronofsky, who's a great director. And his first movie was called Pi, and he made it for practically no money, and it was really well loved. And then he made this huge $100 million movie. It turned out not to be a success, that movie.
Wow.
And it was a case of where having more money didn't help him tell a story. It's just one particular case. Making the version that you can make with the means that you have that adds something real to the project that may be better than the one that has a lot of money thrown at it.
And there's a lot of people right now that I feel like are just waiting for the perfect scenario. Nah. See, I'm gonna eventually start doing content, but I gotta make sure I get the right camera. You feel me? Like, I'm gonna get the right like, bro, I've been looking at the new iPhone, bro. I think I'm gonna get that, bro. Like, they got a cinema mode. Yeah. They keep talking that and never actually do it because they weren't serious about it from the jump. The reality of it is they're getting their literal ass kicked by the person that is not waiting for the perfect circumstances. They are moving with the imperfect tools to get something done. The worst time wasters on earth when it comes to this industry, and maybe it's across the board, are people who act like they care about what they're doing, but secretly dislike every detail about it that's not the one detail they initially fell in love with. So maybe they just love recording. But outside of recording, they're a headache in every capacity. And the truth of the matter, at least to me, is that if you love said craft, love is not just conditioned upon your ability to do the one thing. No. To me, the bigger love of your craft is, I love this so much, even the things that I don't love as much, I have to and will do because it supports the very thing that I love to do the most. The language of love to me is ensuring that you create a foundation, a dwelling, a home around it that enables you to continue to do the thing that you want to do.
So I think the minimalist approach, I think sometimes is really the best one. Maybe it's always the best one because it forces the better solution. Have you ever felt that something was too obscure for mainstream audience appeal to the point where you did not release it?
Look at him. Let's go, Rick. I love Rick, man. I hope I get a chance to meet Rick Rubin. I love the way Rick Rubin's brain works, especially around creativity. He is a creative savant. He has admittedly so said, I don't know about the equipment. I'm not necessarily a traditional producer, laying hands to keys. You may look at me and say, oh, he's an imposter, but he's not. The value he brings is far beyond what he can musically contribute, even though he's made some amazing and legendary music contributions along the way. And people request him to be in the studio. There's a reason why Kanye continues to request his presence. But he talks about in his book how creativity is a room full of kids. Say you're collaborating, a room full of kids that are taking a bunch of colors and smearing it wherever they feel that it's appropriate. Then, when it's time to mix said smears, that is the parent coming in the room and saying, let's see what mess the kids have made and see how we can organize this, mix this, master this, remove certain things from it to create something now that is ready for mass consumption. I love that analogy so much because it reminds you when you're in that studio, your responsibility is the art, for most of us at least.
If I like something, someone else, maybe they'll like it. I don't know. How can I judge? I've been told with every new thing that I've done, it's a terrible idea and it won't work. Every single time.
Really?
Every single time. Still to this day.
The balance of what's going to actually generate income, what's going to make money versus what is best for the art form. It feels like if you look at it as a step-by-step process in which you respect the gangster of every level comes with new devils. If you respect the gangster of every single level, you can make more sound decisions when it's time to move this from this part of the factory to the next step in the factory. The foundation of all this comes down to having a quality product that you can stand on. Not a perfect product, but a quality product that you say, if somebody got that, they'd have a great representation of what Curtis King stands for and the kind of quality of music that he makes. I stand in that. Let's get that out there, right? It ain't perfect, but it's going out. Then the next step in that assembly line, if you want to use that example, is here's the product we have now. It's no different than any other business that says we've been hired by this company, by Mattel, to determine how to market this new style of Barbie. All right, well, she's got this kind of hair. She's got these kind of shoes. She drives this kind of car. What if we did an ad where we put Doja Cat and Nicki Minaj and da-da-da-da? Like, these ideas are now more sound decisions because we're not allowing, first of all, keep the suits out the booth, to make decisions while the songs are being made. To me, this is the best way to go about every step of the process, to be honest to every step of the process. Hey, right now, we're just smearing colors around the room. When it's time, we'll get to the marketing campaign for it. Some people have figured out how to balance everything. I think I've even heard Nick D talk about balancing, having content in his brain before he makes music. That may just be his skill set. For someone like myself, this art is his art. This experience of writing is just the experience. I'm not thinking about what content will be made. I will get to that when it's next phase and I say, here's the 10 songs that I have for this new project that I'm working on called Extended Warranty. What's the marketing look like now? How do we advertise? That to me sounds like a more sound way to go about it so that it doesn't interfere with being the best that you can for each of those things. Those are just my thoughts on it, DIYers. You let me know what you think.
DIY.
DIYers, if you enjoyed this content, make sure that you hit the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. Come on, man. Stop being greedy. Peace.